Before we get to Iran, early hours of the morning agreement amongst the members of the DUP and their executive committee with their leader, Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, that power sharing will return to Stormont in Northern Ireland after a gap of a couple of years. As you know, they fundamentally objected to the Brexit deal, to Northern Ireland effectively having a border in the Irish Sea with the mainland. Now, the reactions to this, the British government are very pleased that power sharing is coming back. Sinn Féin appear to be delighted that power sharing is coming back, and the DUP may have been divided, but they've decided that is what's going to happen. Now, there are no real details on this yet, other, I think, than the British government promising a bit more money for Northern Ireland. So if nothing's changed, how come power sharing is returning? Well, these are early days, but Dougie Beattie, GBNews' Northern Ireland reporter, may be able to tell us just a little bit more.
Well, good evening, Nigel. And you and I have spoke about this in the past on quite a few occasions, but, you know, you've got to go back to Brexit. The DUP backed the Brexit campaign, and they really believed, that they were going to share in the benefits of Brexit. And, of course, it turned out that Boris Johnson signed a deal in the protocol in order to get Brexit done that annexed Northern Ireland from the rest of the UK. And of course, Northern Ireland's main market is inside the UK. 70% of their goods go to the UK. So they very much wanted to be part of the UK single market, but then they were brought into the EU single market and they had rights to the UK single market. And then Rishi Sunak, of course, brought in the Windsor Framework document because he thought he could get the Unionists back into the building behind me. And of course, he then gave away the foundation of the border in the Irish Sea to the EU. And that legislation then, so whoever owns the foundation of the border quite basically says what can go on in the border. And you can do whatever you want on either side of the border, but whoever owns the border basically says where you can go with your goods. And it started from there, and the EU have pushed, and we have ended up with these red and green lanes coming into Northern Ireland. So the DUP still objected, and 2 years ago this Saturday, Paul Givan, the then First Minister, collapsed the institutions behind us. Now, Sir Geoffrey says that he has quite a few things in his pocket from this deal, including rest of world trading, that triangular trading, if you like, that goes on where you can bring goods from a third country to a third country and then into Northern Ireland. Whether that is completely true or not, we'll know tomorrow. But you can't do that anywhere else in the EU. So some big factories here, of course, would bring goods from New Zealand, Australia. They're then brought into factories that they own in Yorkshire. They're made into a usable product and then brought across to Northern Ireland to be manufactured into its final product. Companies like that were facing real problems. So he claims now that they will not have the same problems and there will be a clear passage for those goods coming into this part of the UK, and no big massive amounts of paperwork have to be filled in. The red lanes, of course, will stay the same. That's for goods that may go in and contaminate the EU. But really, at the heels of this, it doesn't matter what sort of deal he has. Unionists are now learning, and they're learning a very hard lesson, that if they do not unite and show that the union is safe by people enjoying the benefits of the union and like living in the union, well then there's always a border poll that can happen. It happened in Scotland, it could happen here. It's in the Good Friday Agreement. So Sir Geoffrey has decided he's going back in, he's taking what he has got out of this deal, he's put it in his pocket, and they're going to try and operate the institutions behind us from inside. And that includes sorting out those public sector union pay rises and every other part of infrastructure in Northern Ireland is currently.
Let's find out, Dougie. Let's find out just exactly what has been achieved by Geoffrey Donaldson. We'll get more details tomorrow and we'll speak to you then. And thank you for joining us from Stormont this evening.